Good evening, and I'd like to welcome you to our kitchen. We gather tonight to reflect on the fourth Sunday of Lent. It's going pretty quickly, isn't it? And, well, for some of us it's going quickly. This week's gospel struck me. But before I speak of the gospel, I'd like you to think of two things. Just think for a moment how dark it's been this winter. How dark and cold. And we sat in it. But we are called to something else. The second reading for this coming Sunday is taken from St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians. As many of you know, St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians is my favorite letter of St. Paul. And if you're ever having a bad day, Joanne, just pick it up and start reading from the beginning. And you will see the power of God in your life right now. So this is from the fifth chapter of Paul's letter to the Ephesians. Let's stop and open our hearts. Our God, we stand in so much darkness tonight. The darkness of war, the darkness of tornadoes and damages, the darkness of terrorist attacks. We place all this darkness before you. Paul writes, "Brothers and sisters, you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live as children of light. For light produces every kind of goodness and righteousness and truth. Try to learn what is pleasing to God. Take no part in the fruitless works of darkness. Rather expose them, for it is shameful even to mention the things done by them in secret. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible. For everything that becomes visible is light. Therefore, it says, awaken, O sleeper, arise from your dead, and Christ will give you light." The word of the Lord. The gospel story. Well, I was looking up today how many stories there are in the Gospels of Jesus healing the blind. Well, it went anywhere from 8 to 22, depending on, one day he healed 2 blind men. This story is an interesting one because usually these stories, Jesus is the star of the story. This one's a little different. I'm going to tell it to you, because it's a very long story to read. So prepare yourself for church on Sunday, Cookie. It's a very long story. Hey, hi. Now, Jesus is passing by. He's in Jerusalem. And some of his disciples are with him. Right before this, the Pharisees began talking about getting Jesus. That's my dogs. And I think I'll close that door. Hold on 1 minute, please. I'll be back. Okay, Spice. Okay. I'm back. our dogs, like most dogs, can see in the dark. It was either a deer or a possum. They're only about 18 inches tall, but boy, can they really go at it, right? You can hear them. Hey, so Jesus is in Jerusalem. They're trying to plot how to get him. He's annoying. He's breaking up the system. And now he's by the temple. And he sees a blind man begging. A blind man begging. He goes over to him. And he said, "Would you like to see?" He says, "Yes." So, Jesus makes a little mud from the dirt, spits on it, puts it on the man's eyes, and says, "Go to the pool of Siloam, and there wash your eyes." Sounds familiar. There was another story like that, right? And they helped the man over. This is a place where before people went into the temple, they would wash their feet, they would cleanse their hands, and he went and took this water and put it on his eyes, and he could see. Comes back to Jesus, and Jesus says, "Good. Now, go present yourself to the priest." So he goes. And that man starts to get in trouble. Now, 3 times he is confronted because of Jesus. The man who was blind, no longer blind, the priests start asking him questions. Now, they are not happy with Jesus, and this guy comes along, and he says, "Well, I don't know who he is, but he cured me. He healed me." And they say, "You sure you don't know who he is?" He said, "Well, he must be a prophet." It starts out, he must be a prophet. They don't like this. So now they call for the guy's parents. The guy's parents come. And they ask him, and they said, "We don't know. He's an adult. He can speak for himself." So he does. And they're trying to back away. Nobody wants to get into trouble, you know. They don't want to get into trouble with the priests. It never works out well for you. Joking. If any priests are on, I didn't mean you. But 3 encounters with Jesus, 3 encounters with the priests, and each time we see something happening to the man who was once blind. His physical sight had been healed, but now his internal sight was healed. Awake, O sleeper. Don't let the darkness take the day. This gospel is in John, chapter 9. There's another story here about the man who was blind, and Jesus did the same thing to him, and he said, "How is it?" And the guy said, "Well, it's good, but the people look like trees." So that man was not born blind. This one was. What about his family? He was off begging. What do we think about people who are begging? I know that my dad taught us never to pass a beggar on the street. Give him $1. And I was with friends in Manhattan before Giuliani moved all those people. I don't know where they went. And maybe they're back. And I was giving $1. And my friend said, "Don't be stupid. They're just going to go drink it." And I remember what my father said. He said, "It's not your responsibility what the person does with your $1. It's your responsibility that you saw the person and you reached out. You saw the person." Michelle told me a story the other day. She works in the parish in Bellport, and somebody came for help, and she asked the woman her name, just her first name, and the woman told her, and as they were talking, Michelle said, well, she used her first name, and the woman burst out crying because she said, you know, poor people are never seen. They're just not seen. Think about what's happening among us. Something so powerful is happening in this story, but it is connected with Paul's letter to the Ephesians. Light, darkness, light. The Gospel of John is all symbolism. And this is the most powerful symbol. Jesus brings the light that we may see. Today, synagogue outside Detroit, guy took his truck, went around the barriers right into the building. There were little kids there in a preschool. He hit a security guard. The second security guard shot at him, killed him, and the truck went on fire. It was at the entry of in the hall. Why? Because they were Jews. Because they were Jews. You see, there's groups. There's the beggars. Right? You are good, you are worthy. There's us, the people who walk down the street, the people whose names are known. What is our responsibility in all the darkness? What is your responsibility? What is mine? I know that for me, I am deeply troubled most of the time about different things. But I do know the gospel acclamation for this Sunday says, Jesus speaking, I am the light of the world, says the Lord. Whoever follows me will have the light of life. I keep thinking about that nurse in Minneapolis who was killed, Alex, and his goodness. And what we saw was a week before he was killed, he and other members of the staff in the Veterans Hospital were standing next to the gurney of a patient who had died, and he led the prayer for that man. And you could see it all around. You could see it. You could see the light coming from him and from the other people. Sin is our saying no. Sin is saying you don't understand God. Our bishops in this country have recently put out a response to what is going on in our country. This was before a war, and they asked us to remember the gospel. The most powerful words in that whole Bible is in Matthew 25. It tells us how to live as people of light. Look it up tonight, Matthew 25, and you will see how we are called to live. The parents say, our son is of age, question him. So they called the man back and said to him, give God the praise. We know this man is a sinner. This Jesus is a sinner. And he replied, if he's a sinner, I don't know. One thing I do know is that I was blind and now I see. What did he do to you? And the man says, I already told you. You did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciple too? Now the guy's getting real fresh, right? Do you want to become his disciple too? They ridiculed him. And they said, you are this man's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but we do not know where this one is from. And the man answered and said to them, this is what's so amazing, that you do not know where he is from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but God listens to him. It is unheard of if anyone ever opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man was not from God, he would not be able to do anything. And then they said to him, you were born totally in sin. Totally in sin. Is it him or is his parents? My friend Betty always says, you think you're going to have kids and you're going to raise these kids and they're going to be wonderful kids. You get the kids you get. Remember the Unabomber? His brother turned him in. Because sometimes we just have to do what's right and move the light. I encourage you to take your life tonight. Maybe tomorrow. It's a little dark tonight. Maybe you want to watch Matlock or something. Okay? But just take a moment and think about what's going on in our world. I saw a tanker, an oil tanker in the Straits of Hormuz on fire tonight. We were watching the news hour, and it was total darkness, and this tanker was absolutely burning bright. But it did not bring light to the area. It burnt into itself. How do we want to live? Are we the people who care? On Easter, we are given the light. St. Paul tells us, be people of the light. So this blind guy is really in a mix here, right? And he doesn't know what to do. Okay? And Jesus said to him, well, actually, when Jesus heard this, that the guy got thrown out of the synagogue, he called him. And he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? And he said, yes, sir, that I may believe in him. Tell me that I may believe in him. And Jesus says, you have seen him. The one speaking with you is he. Remember last week, the woman at the well? Jesus is telling people who he is. Karen, this week, where did Jesus tell you who he is? Joanne, Cookie, where did Jesus tell you who he is in your life, in our world? He said, you have seen him, and it is he who is speaking with you. I do believe, Lord. And he worshiped Jesus. And then Jesus said, I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see might see, and those who do see might become blind. It's very hard to stand up to truth. This night in Lebanon, right north of Israel, is a small Christian community, Catholic community. And they didn't want to leave. They went to the church basement, but it got too dangerous. And UN peacekeepers were in the area. They came and got them, and the people cried, and they stopped. And before they left, they took down their cross and held it tight. This night, we don't think about the Christians in Beirut. Do we think about the Christians hiding out in Iran? The Christians begging right here, right now. I just encourage you. I don't want to make you feel guilty. You're not guilty. We all have need. We all have need. Absolutely. But I do know that when you pass a beggar, don't avert your eyes, because it might be Jesus. I'll tell you a little story. I told this story before, but I'm not sure that people remember it. I'm going to leave you with the story. Michelle, years ago, went to downtown Manhattan to speak at a fair hearing for a couple who were supposed to get food stamps or some kind of help. They were both working. They didn't make enough money because they worked at low-paying jobs. Anyway, Michelle went. A friend of hers drove in. She went in. Well, a friend drove her van in. And Michelle got there. And this was a while ago. The building, federal building, had no elevator, but a lot of steps going up. And Michelle had to get into that building but her wheelchair wouldn't go up the steps. So they carried her up. They did the fair hearing. They won. But then they came out. And you know when you're standing at the top of a staircase and you look down? Terrifying, isn't it? Well, they were going to carry Michelle down the staircase. And she just prayed because she had already been dropped more than once. And they carried her down the staircase. When she got to the bottom, there was a guy coming down the street listening to music, you know, and he was dressed in like a green suit, old suit and boots, and she told me it looked like Bojangles, yep. And he went over to Michelle, and they were going to push him away. See? Push him away. We don't want to hit his darkness. But the guy came over and looked right in Michelle's face, and he said, I am always here when you need me. And Michelle knew that she had seen the face of God, and it was light. It was light. We can choose darkness. We can walk. Let's not treat each other this way anymore. You know, please, let's not treat this. Just in my own family. I was picking up dog poop, and my brother called me, and he started going on and on and on politically, and I had stepped in the dog poop, and I was trying to clean my shoe. You know how you get crazy, right? And I said, I have to go, and I hung up the phone. I didn't want it. I'd rather have poop on my shoe than what he was going to give me. What about you? Do you want to stand in the light with me? I really would ask you to do that. But it takes our hearts. So I'm going to pray a song, and I'm going to ask you to respond in that song. It's a very powerful song. It's this little book. I should get a commission. You're looking at it backwards. It's Give Us This Day. It's wonderful. Psalm 95. We sing this song every night in night prayer. Not only do we see, we hear. Our response is, if today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. Come, let us sing joyfully to the Lord. Let us acclaim the rock of salvation. Let us come into his presence with thanksgiving. If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. Come, let us bow down and worship. Let us kneel before the Lord who made us. For he is our God, and we are the people he shepherds, the flock he guides. If today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. Oh, and today you would hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the day of Massa in the desert, where your fathers tempted me. They tested me. Though they had seen my works, they were hardened. If today you hear his voice and see his face, harden not your hearts. Reject the darkness. The people who are throwing darkness all over us, reject it. On March 22nd, I am asking people to come and join me in person at Mary Immaculate Church in Browns Lane in Bellport to have a holy hour. It's not a blessed sacrament holy hour. It's a people of God holy hour gathered. You saw the flyer I sent out, wasn't it? I love that picture. Breaks my heart. I'm going to ask you to join me in praying for our country and for our world, that we may see light. We may gather together and celebrate the light. So it's going to be, I think it's 2 o'clock. We're going to spend 1 hour praying, reflecting, asking God to bring light into our own lives, into our family, to the people who are in need. May we be bearers of light. So that's what I'm going to do next week. It's an in-person, and Sister Pat is going to be there, not in her kitchen, but in person. And in the meantime, it's going to be St. Patrick's Day, which is my feast day. And it's going to be cold. But I've never marched in the St. Patrick's Day parade. But I am Irish, and I celebrate the fact of the goodness of so many people who are Irish. I really do. I feel it. I went to Ireland once for a few days. It was a long story. But everybody I met, they wanted to put on the tea. Come on in. They were bearers of light. So, happy St. Patrick's Day. And thank God it's not a Friday, right? And I hope that you, this week, find lots of light. Next week will be our last gathering here, and it will be on Wednesday. I do want to tell you that I did have a procedure yesterday on my back. Not an operation, but a procedure, and it helped. It's not a permanent thing, but hey, I'm rejoicing. Rejoice with me. Have a wonderful week. Look closely. Jesus is looking at you. Looking at me. Let's sit back and have a cup of tea with him. May you be blessed this week. And I will look forward to seeing you next Wednesday evening here and on March 22nd. Take good care of yourself. Take good care of your family. And sit down, put your feet up, and take a breath. It's all still going to be there tomorrow. Okay? Thank you. I love you. Good night.